The feeling's mutual, Luigi. Howdy, everyone. I'm Professor Kagan, Professor in Ego Only, and today I wanted to give somewhat of a retrospective, or sort of just my overall thoughts on the Luigi's Mansion franchise, and a little bit of my hopes for the future of the series. I got in the game when I was a young lad, and, well, it scared the living daylights out of me. I was about, 5 to 8 years old, somewhere in that time frame, and I couldn't even play it in the dark because I was so afraid of the ghosts. I would even take the game and I would hide it from myself all over the house for quite a few years before I stopped being such a scaredy cat. And then I finally played the game and completed it, and that was, I don't know, at the very most, or it was about 6 years ago or so. And I always remembered, and even now, Professor Egad was always my favorite character. But I also think Luigi himself has gotten quite a bit of character development in the series, and I think that Luigi's Mansion truly makes Luigi not only the better Mario brother, but simply just a more developed character. But from the very start, I liked the inventions that Egad had created, and I always found it humorous that of all the things he could do with ghosts, he made them in the paintings in the first game. And in Dark Moon, he became a little bit more of a amortal scientist. Now, he wasn't doing anything too horrid, but I wouldn't exactly say that sending Luigi through a largely untested teleportation device is mortal science. Though Egad is known to pick on Luigi's fear, or when he doesn't realize something that he probably should have. Like, for example, when Egad remarked that Luigi shouldn't have let all of those boos escape when he let them out in the first game. Regardless, he's a very fun character who usually cheers Luigi on during the game and provides him with all the tools he needs to get out of ghostly capers. And he's just a little devil, and I love him. But let's move on to Luigi. And ever since I was little, he was my favorite Mario brother, and it always delighted me to have a series of games starring him. And with each game, his personality just seems to get more and more expressive, and I do think that's to the credit of Dark Moon, one of the few things I will actually give credit to in Dark Moon. And it seems to get turned up to an 11 in Luigi's Mansion 3, but it doesn't just start in Dark Moon. You can see him humming along to the music in LM1, basically how he was feeling when he saw Mario emerge from the portrificationizer at the end of the game, how happy he was to see Mario back. Or just every time he got scared by a ghost, his face would just rise up in horror. And it was just so awesome. He's so utterly expressive, even comical in his mannerisms. Or it's like when Mario compliments him after being saved again at the end of Dark Moon. He's just so happy and so grateful that his brother thanked him for being saved. And then let's talk about his relationship with the Polterpup. This dog was kind of a real pain to me when I played Dark Moon. His chase missions always dragged on way too long, as most of Dark Moon's missions did. Even for a mobile game, a game on the 3DS, that was kind of weird how the missions would always drag on so long. And I always got a little annoyed every time he escaped from the Poltergust's grasp, because eventually you do capture the dog, so what's different? Luigi didn't change anything on the Poltergust, neither did Egad, so why do you finally get to capture him that time? But for all his faults, he was apologetic towards Luigi at the end. It's not like he was doing it all on his own. Again, the Dark Moon's negative lack of appearance had a negative influence on all the ghosts. And with the Dark Moon back in the sky, all the ghosts became nice again. And then Luigi even ended up adopting him. And seeing him hop into Luigi's lap at the end of the game made my little heart just so warm. It was really sweet. And it's nice to see him return as a companion in Luigi's Mansion 3. And you know a man loves his dog when he lets him sleep on the bed, and I look forward to seeing that bond they have grow. So now let's talk about I do have some notes here that I've been kind of looking back and forth while elaborating on them. And I've written the most about ghost catching equipment, the poltergeists, throughout all 3 games. And I really love these devices. I think that they're probably one of the most attractive things about the series, aside from Luigi and Egad and the ghosts. And I'd like to start with the Poltergeist 3000, which we first see Egad making use of, and, well, it might be the first one, but it is my favorite. I like the design and simplicity. You just flash the ghost and suck it up and you're done. I've seen people sort of bash this way of catching ghosts because as soon as the ghost is stunned by them, they immediately become unstunned and they disappear. But it's a simple fix, and I'm fairly certain it's what Nintendo intended from the beginning. All you have to do is hold the flashlight off until you're right up on the ghosts or ghosts you want to capture. Nintendo gives the option to use the stroll bulb from the Poltergeist 5000 in the 3DS remake, but I don't use it. The 3000 didn't have it before, it doesn't need it in the 3DS remake. I enjoyed the added functionality of the element metals to the Poltergeist 3000, which can make it either a flamethrower, a water gun, or a freeze ray. And you need these metals to solve puzzles and even defeat ghosts and bosses, and it just made the ghost catching experience so much more varied and interesting. So, it's a simple device with just 3 small additions that make it so much more. So now let's move on to Dark Moon's ghost catching device, the Poltergeist 5000. And if you may have noticed, when I've mentioned it the past few times, we go from 3,000 to 5,000, so where's the 4,000? Well, fun fact of the day, the Poltergeist 4000 was actually one of Luigi's carts in Mario Kart DS. But as far as I'm aware, it has no ghost catching functionality, so I'm not going to cover it here. The 5000 is specifically tailored for gameplay on the 3DS, Dark Moon's platform of origin. It prepares ghosts for capture with that strobe bulb device. It's basically a strobe light that you can charge up and just flash ghosts. And you can also use it to activate gadgets and inventions that EGAD has set up around the places you explore. It works fine, but it can be a little bit of an annoyance if you're trying to get a lot of ghosts and you accidentally let them corner you. Whereas, you know, with the Poltergeist 3000, I've just got the light and I can just turn it on and boom, I've got them. Or I can at least make them disappear so I won't be so cornered anymore. The P4000 also has another function, the dark light device. Basically, you can discover invisible objects in a room and then remove the invisibility orbs placed on the objects. And then you suck those orbs up. And it adds a little bit of puzzle-solving functionality to the P4000, but I wish it also did something more with the ghosts, like having ghosts that can be defeated with the dark light. Now, I know you can, discover the boos with the dark light, but they're not defeated by the dark light. They stick out their tongues, and you suck their tongue, and then they get bounced around, and somehow that removes their HP. You don't even suck them like you did in the original game. So they're not really defeated by the dark light, and I think that's kind of a wasted opportunity. I feel like there should have been ghosts or even bosses that you could use the dark light to defeat, because the original game had metals that I mentioned earlier that could be used to defeat special ghosts and bosses too. Where was that for the ghosts in Dark Moon? And that's all I've really got to say about the Poltergeist 5000, so we're going to move on to the latest device, which doesn't really have a number. It's called the Poltergeist G-00, or GOO, because it harbors a brand new feature that we've kind of seen before, but we kind of haven't, and I'll remark on it later. But it has Luigi, which is a goo replica of Luigi's form that can go places Luigi can't. It can help solve puzzles, capture ghosts with his own vacuum, and provide a player if you wish to play co-op with a friend. And I'm actually really looking forward to using this Poltergeist, because it's more than just Luigi tagging along. The device can also charge up a special meter that allows Luigi to slam ghosts into the ground and each other to drain them of health. And Luigi looks so pissed when he does it, and I love it. And it also reminds me of the super slamming functions in Ghostbusters, the video game, which is getting a remaster later this year. So it's a good year for ghost hunting games, and I can't wait. Basically, what you would do is, after you drain the ghosts of health in Ghostbusters, you can slam them around to tire them out, slam them into the ghost traps, and it's so visceral, it's so immersive, I love it. The G-00 can also discharge a short burst of air to give Luigi a jump boost, or blast away ghosts if you're being cornered. It's like the pack was designed for me. And we also see the return of the strobe bulb. I suppose it's game standard now, especially since the capture mechanics are basically the same as the one used in the 3DS and not GameCube, which I'm kind of sad about. I love the tug-of-war mechanic in LM1, and I felt like actually reeling in the ghost, for lack of a better description, was a lot easier and not as... Basically, it wasn't immersive in Dark Moon. The way they just had one circle pad and you were just kind of pulling away from the ghost, it wasn't as fun. Now, as far as the settings in the games go, the mansion in the first game is the one that stands out to me the most. It's the most memorable, though I have a feeling the Last Resort Hotel in Luigi's Mansion 3 may end up usurping that position. This being because LM3 is something that Dark Moon doesn't. Humanoid ghosts, or as they were referred to in Luigi's Mansion 1, portrait ghosts. Originally introduced back in LM1, they were omitted in Dark Moon, I think because I think Miyamoto personally didn't want them in Dark Moon. I don't quite remember the developer commentary on it, but these ghosts took the forms of humans, and sometimes other creatures, but mostly humans, and this made the mansion feel alive, ironically. And they each had dedicated rooms that were tailored to them, meant for them. Like, for example, there was a ghost baby named Chauncey, and he was in the nursery. There was a pianist named Melody, who was in the conservatory. These ghosts all had personalities, small backstories, and we even had one aid Luigi in his quest to save Mario. Now, personally, I found Dark Moon's ghosts to be more cartoonish. They didn't really do anything for me. They weren't very memorable, and I feel like they tried to make up for that with having the mansions have several different themes. But it did not quite get it for me. The mansions are made by the ghosts. The locations are made by the ghosts. Now, I'll exclude Polterpup from that, because he's clearly a dog, and he looks and acts like one even in death. But I think Luigi's Mansion 3 will get this right. Each floor of the hotel will be themed to a certain thing, just like Luigi's Mansion. Well, that was rooms, not floors. But, for example, we've got a humanoid ghost named Morty, and he's a film director. He makes his floor feel lived in. It's his domain. And Morty seems to be a bit more of a friendlier ghost, as we see in the E3 2019 footage. And all we have to do is help him out, look for his megaphone, and star in his monster movie. Which is just so awesome and silly. And it's just like, oh, this ghost is dressed up as Godzilla and we gotta defeat him. And it's just so cute. I've not even played the game yet, and I find that floor alone more memorable than any of the mansions in Dark Moon. And I've recently played both games prepping for LM3. So, now that we're getting towards the end of things, I'd like to talk about Luigi's Mansion 3DS, which is the remake of the first game that came out last year in October on the 3DS. And I thought it was an alright remake. It was basically note for note Luigi's Mansion with a couple of changes. They redid the gallery with a boss rush mode. I didn't really take advantage of it. And then there was the addition of Luigi as a co-op character. And I really loved the way they introduced him via time travel. Basically, it seems like Luigi was invented while Luigi was off exploring the mansions in Dark Moon. And I guess Egad just got bored, created him, and went like, oh, I'll just send him back and he can help out Luigi in the first mansion. As for how the co-op ran, I've only tested it on launch model 3DSs, and it ran like garbage. uh, it was kind of choppy, laggy. It was not a good time, and maybe it'd run better on a new 3DS. But there's one reason I will not play that game on the new 3DS. And it's because Luigi's Mansion 3DS is designed to control like Dark Moon. And as I said before, I don't care for that style of control. But if you play it on the new 3DS, you can use the nub C-stick to mimic the original GameCube control style. And if anybody has used a ThinkPad laptop or keyboard with that little red nub in the center you can use as a mouse, I don't like those kind of nubs. They don't feel good. They're kind of mushy and hard to control. And I don't know why Nintendo couldn't fit a full circle pad on the new 3DS. But there is another option. The kind of somewhat obscure Circle Pad Pro for the original 3DS is supported by Luigi's Mansion 3DS, and this makes it the optimal platform to play Luigi's Mansion on the go. 2 full sticks, no motion controls, no stroll bulb, perfect on the go, ghost catching action. If it's not abundantly clear at this point the first game is my favorite, I don't quite know what to tell you. Except, well, maybe this. I do love this game series, and despite Dark Moon's faults, I think we're going in a good direction with Luigi's Mansion 3. I really can't wait for Halloween. It's going to be awesome. Luigi's Mansion 3 is just going to be a great time, and perhaps I'll talk a little bit more about it before release or maybe after, once I've played the game and I have a lot more to say about it. Well, until next time, this is Professor Kagan. Professor, in ego only.